We all face problems every day at work and in our personal lives. But handling it is the biggest challenge of how we come out of the problem and make it a positive or a negative. That's what we're going to speak today in our session on live today on the action plan. So I am your Grenville with Praveen, and we'll be going through our life experiences of how we've handled problems both at work as well as home. Afternoon, Praveen. Nice to have you again this week.
Good afternoon, Grenville. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all our friends.
Same to you, Praveen. It's our first session, so as I forgotten, so happy New Year to everyone who's been following us as well as whoever is live and will see the recording of the session. So, Praveen, as I said, the topic today we have picked is to talk about how we've handled problems and what we've used as our what do you call tactics of not tactics, but more like rules of making sure we can make the problems turn out to be a positive, right? So we'll go through
Yeah,
what we feel could be the better way of handling problems, both at work as well as home, and how we could turn a negative into a positive by using the problems itself as a learning tool. So in your mind, let's start with first with work. So we have a problem at work. What do you normally do when you have a problem, and what do you adopt as a methodology to handle the problem positively?
Grenville, to understand a particular problem, what we are facing, either at work or at home, the main thing is to identify the problem. Normally, we tend to misguide or misjudge the issue, and we try to take on our own impression about the problem and move towards it. The basic thing we always miss is to where the problem started, who has started the problem, whether it is me or the system or the surrounding people. A clear understanding of the issue will make a lot of better understanding and clarity with respect to the problem.
I think you're right.
What's
As you
your
said,
thoughts on it?
no, I agree. As you said, root cause analysis, I think we have a philosophy itself that is adopted in every problem, right? Now, you may react to the problem and try to solve that problem for that specific instance, but the root cause never gets fixed, and you will be having repetitive problems of the same nature coming up in different places and with different individuals as well. So, one good thing with the problem is that it is a good learning experience that you can use it for. So, as you said, root cause analysis gives you that opportunity to actually learn from that problem and use it to a positive so that you can use it in the future for your own reference and also not to repeat the same problem either by yourself or you, even with the others. Just to take an
Yeah.
example, in my earlier organization, every problem we had a practice of writing a report, okay, a corrective action report saying what was the problem, why did it even occur in the first place, and what could we have done to avoid it. Okay, so a sort of introspection that the person would do. It was a very constructive document. It was never used as a corrective action against the person. It was more to what should be correct in ourselves or as a person to use this as a record for people who are going to read it and learn from it. So the person would come into our morning meeting, read out about the incidents, and everybody knew that it was more a learning experience than putting the person in bad light. And when a new person joined the organization, we would give that full file. It was a box file maintained. And first job when he comes for orientation would be read through all the problems we've had so that he could learn from the mistakes that were done by somebody else. So as you said, it's a very, very good tool to use root cause analysis to help us avoid it happening again in the future. So that is very, very appropriate.
Yes, Colonel, I agree to a fact of what is the how you handle problems at plant. And most of the time, the problem is divided into two phases. One is with respect to human relationship. The other one is with respect to the system. I think system problems are much easy to clear it because you get a repeated analysis or repeated data, which you can maybe segregate the data for 2, 3 months and then you can solve it. But the problems related to human relationships, that's a very tough one. The simple example I would say is both of us have a difference of opinion. So we have three options to talk, either to talk directly to you or talk to some friend of us or just gossip with some people. Ultimately, until we both talk, we are not going to resolve the issue because
Right.
your thought process is totally different. My thought process is totally different. So we have to come to a terms of agreement. Then only the relationship issues get solved. So most of us just skip that particular trend and go into other fashions of it. What's your thoughts on it, Grenville?
No, you're right. See, the one of my mentors said used to have this saying. Okay, the difference between a machine and a man is that a machine runs on an algorithm or a formula, right? If you enter 1 plus 1 into a machine, the output will be 2 plus the loss of the process plus the addition that the machine does. It's a simple mathematical equation. But with a human being, you can put 1 to 1 into one of the human beings, you may get 10. The same 1 to 1 you put into another human being, you will get 25. And the other person, you could get a negative number out of the person. So human beings are such complex beings, and our approach to a topic is so complex. The way we react with our perceptions, our sentiment, our health, the environment, our reaction to body language, our stimuli. There's so many factors that goes into us reacting to a same problem. So it becomes very difficult to predict even the same person. Today, if you meet a person and you have a topic, you could have a different outcome tomorrow with the same person. It all depends on the environment and the person having the interaction, right? So that is what makes problem solving so complicated. And I think the point you brought it is very relevant. The biggest problem we have is miscommunication, right? The
Yeah.
problem is what the problem is, right? What we read in the problem adds a complexity that nobody is able to figure out. Because you would say you are doing it because of this, you are saying it because of this. You would keep adding a flavor to that story, and it would become a big movie by the end of the story. And you would find that actually the problem was totally something totally unrelated to what we are saying. Can I say an example of this? Actually, a live example that I saw. Okay, we had a plant manager in one of the plants. Okay, and he had a problem that every time he says something to you, he will go around the story to come to the point. Okay, we used to call him roundabout. You know, the roundabout that you have in an island. That's what we used to call him because he'll never come to the point straight. So when he comes to you, if you are even he's coming to say hello, you would first assess, do I have the time for this guy to even talk to him? Okay, so you tell him, hold a second, I'm going to a meeting, I'll come back to you, and you run away. And then when you do have time, you'll accommodate the guy. So even before the guy has opened his mouth, right, you have created an impression that there is a problem with the guy, when absolutely may not be anything at all. So perceptions play such a big role that you have to communicate the right way and to make sure you leave all your perceptions aside and go with an open mind to a conversation to at least solve a problem, at least specifically for a problem solving. You have to go and address the problem for the value of the problem, not who is involved in the problem. You're absolutely right, Praveen.
Yeah. I was just, when you were telling, I was just remembering a normal experiment when there is a, what is it, they bring in a consultant to a team of people, and what they want to do is they wanted to prove two things. One is how the communication is done, and what is teamwork. So normally what they do is they line up 10 or 15 people in the whole group. They line up all of them together, and the consultant will murmur something into the first person's
Correct.
ears. And when it comes to the last of it, then you will have a totally a different story. So in this, they were trying to explain two things. One is the mode of communication. So you need to be very clear what you are saying. Uh, Anybody could pursue the information differently on that. That is one part of it. The second one is that how you delegate your communication network to the second person. So if you need to cross check with the other team member whether he heard it right. So normally that is also something which we don't do. We say, you do this one. That is my style. It may not suit you also. So it just goes on like, oh, he said, I will do it. Then when the end result comes, oh, no, we didn't think about that. It went all the way around. That's a very funny incident I tend to remember on it. I think most of the management meetings or anything it has been
Yeah.
done. This is a common exercise which they try to do it.
Correct. Correct. You're right. See, one thing that I've always kept in mind is that problem solving puts everybody out of their comfort zone, right? So in a normal situation, you are normally in a very ideal mindset and a very ideal environment. You tend to react professionally, right? You're in control of your emotions and you react it. But when you're in a problem, your survival instinct takes on. So you are in the flight or fight mode of approaching every conversation and everything that's happening around you. So when I tell anybody is involved in a problem, that's what I tell them. I said, look, relax. We're going to find a solution to this. Okay, so you put yourself in the right mindset that, okay, I'm not going to be penalized. I'm not at risk whether of losing my job or being thought about badly or being characterized as doing a fault or having done a mistake. So you remove that fear factor out. And I've seen that the results you get out of the person are way better and in a much more productive way. So that's what I always, when you go to, at least my experience has been that whenever you go to your supervisor and say, I did a mistake, the first thing you get is a reprimand. That straight away puts you on the defensive and you're trying to justify everything that could have not been your fault, right? This guy did it, that thing, the machine shut down, the current went off, and you can say all the excuses while the problem most probably will be with you, right? Just
Yes.
because of the reprimand you received. So I used to do the same thing too. I mean, to be honest, I've been no angel as a supervisor. I have used to do the same mistake initially in my career. But then I found when I changed my approach, and when someone walked with a problem, I tell them first sit down, drink a cup of water. Okay, what is the issue first? Forget you did a mistake. I am totally upset. I totally have let you down. I said, okay, all that aside, what is the problem? Let's fix the problem. We'll get back to the corrective action later. I saw that there's a very big swing in the approach of how the people were reacting to solving the problem. One, we were much more efficient at solving the problem, and people were ready to own up to their mistake. Okay, so you actually were able to go to the root cause because what they would do, they'll hide it, right? When they know they're going to get reprimanded, the first thing would be that how can I cover myself to protect myself from the reprimand? So I took that out of the equation. They'll come and state, say, I have totally messed up. It's my fault, even before I ask them what happened. So I think
Okay.
the approach to a problem solving as a primary approach we should take is to remove that factor of risk or a fear psychosis that people have in a problem situation. Like if you're exposed to an accident, right? We would react totally different to not driving a car normally. No, that is the way we
Yep.
react to the situation. So I think the biggest thing about problem solving is have a stable mind. As I say, an upset mind does not see anything right. It always sees things different. So have your mind in the right place. Have your people who are around you who have the solution. The person who can solve it is the person who has created the problem most probably, because he is the one that knows the situation the best. If you take him out of the equation, you are bringing another element of you who has half information, okay, who's not an expert in that field, trying to solve somebody else's problem, which is the worst thing you can do. So this is the way at least
Yep.
I followed it, Praveen, in my career as a supervisor.
Yeah, Grenville, you said it right. The main thing is to identify the problem. That is one part. So I think identifying a problem is not, I would say it is only you cross 40% of the issue as such. The rest 60% is how you want to get out of the problem. And when you understand the problem, the normal attitude is to go and share information with the people around you, maybe your mentor, trusted ones, neighbors, whatever it is there. And there is a bigger issue which is with that situation is that how would you approach the problem.
Mm.
So I will tell you a simple example which I just thought about it is like I'm thirsty, so I have three options to do. There is no water in my house, so they have options to do. One is that I can ask my neighbor for water, glass of water, or
Mm.
there's a running tap, so I can drink from the running tap, or go out and get it from a stores, a Bisleri
Mm.
bottle or something. Here, these three are very simple solutions. And if somebody says drink running tap water, I'm a very what to say. I'm a person who thinks about hygienic and all those things. If I am forced to drink that water, the water would not have contaminated. But the thought of me being hygienic would have contaminated my whole so problem solving thing. So
Correct.
it is basically what people to understand is that what is the issue and what how I need to play it. So if there's a problem going, my way of solving the problem or handling the issue is totally different from the one who is giving the advice. So I need to take in the inputs, analyze the inputs, and work in your style so that you don't get stuck halfway through, which creates you to a bigger problem again. So what's your thoughts on that, Grenville?
So actually, this takes me back to an instance of one of the first bosses that I ever had. Okay, I always had a mentality that my supervisor had the solution, right? So I'll always run to him and say, I have this problem. He'll say, and I'll think, what does he mean by and? He says, so what's the solution? I'll think that this guy must be nuts. Okay, I am coming to you saying I'm in a problem, and you're asking me for the solution. I mean, how will I find the solution? He said, go and think and come back. At least bring me three options. Which to me was like we are in a crisis. Okay, we are actually losing money. and you're telling me to think of something that I can't solve. I'm in the middle of the problem. But over a period of time, of course, without him telling me, I realized that he was making me think of a solution rather than worrying about what the problem was. So that was a very big mind shift for me, that approach every problem with the end in mind, right? Okay, I have a
Yes.
problem. This is nothing that's going to change. You're already having a problem. So whether I am upset about it or I'm happy about it, the problem is going to remain there. And the best person to solve it is not somebody else. It is me. I have the
Yes.
tools, I have the experience, I have the expertise to solve it. And if I'm going to somebody, is more as a reassurance to me that I have messed up. So reassure me that I'm right. That's all I need as a reaffirmation, right? So instead of going to him for a solution, I have to fix it and think, no, I'm in this. What do I do to solve the problem? And find a solution for myself. And maybe if I want the reaffirmation, then I go to the other person and have a collective thought process of how we can solve it. Trust me, I've implemented this very effectively all through my career with most of the thing, and even at home. Okay, forget about work. Even at home, when it comes to your children, the human mentality of a parent is to tell them, okay, do it like this, do it like that. And I am lucky that I had, of course, all our children are intelligent till we don't make them intelligent, right? But my children, I've let them to always been the person to come and tell me, this is what I've seen as a problem, and this is what I'm going to do about it. What do you think? It is more as checking with me, should they be doing what they've been thinking, rather than asking me, what should I do? And this also changed at the same time, I changed my mindset of approaching a problem with my colleagues. So I've implemented this very effectively in my personal life as well as work, and found that this equips even your children to be independent, to be self thinkers of themselves. And also their caliber of person changes because they are confident, right? Now they know the risks of doing a mistake. Now they have also, they acknowledge that they've done the mistake, and they're also empowered now that they can solve it. So they're not normally looking to you for solutions. They're coming to you saying that I had this problem, I solved it. And the biggest danger as a parent is that when somebody comes and says, oh, I had a problem, without you letting the guy finish, you say, oh, what did you do? What happened? Where did you get hurt? What happened? And all this, and you sort of make the issue so big that the guy says, I should never come and tell them again. Okay, I either hide it, okay, or I come and paint it very nicely that it doesn't look like a problem at all. So, which also I learned over a period of time that, okay, first hear the guy out fully, what he has to say or her say, so that they can come in, then you'll find that they most probably have solved most of the problems and they're just updating you, this is what happened. So that I
Yeah.
think is a very powerful way of handling problems, Praveen, is to make sure that you empower the people who are in the problem to know that the solution is with you. You are the most equipped person to solve it. I am here to back you up. Whether you're a supervisor or a parent or even a colleague, rather than jumping in there and saying, I'm going to help you, I think allowing that person to find his own solution, it's very frustrating. Huh? If you care for the person or if you're a colleague who really cares, you would want to jump in and first go and get your hands dirty, right? But that is the worst thing you're doing for your colleague or your child, is by jumping in and trying to solve it for them. And it is even very tedious because you know that you are capable of doing something, at least in your mind, right? But you know that every situation is different depending on that particular situation. But what I've learned a period of time is sit back, tie your hands together and say, wait, let the guy come back with a solution. And if he can't find a solution, you still have a solution to provide to him, right? So that's
Yeah,
what makes
Grenville,
it
that is
more
very,
effective.
yeah, that is very much right, Grenville. The main thing is to take the ownership of the issue. So until
Correct.
you take the ownership, then you don't find a solution of it. When we are just talking about it, I just remembered the book, A Power of Thinking Big. In that, the author comes through a third chapter called Excusitis. So he says the first thing people give is anything is there, they give an excuse, saying that why you are late, bus is late. So it is not the bus is late, you have turned up to the bus station late. So he says once you stop giving excuses, then half the things get resolved on it.
Correct.
And in that whole book, he comes out with an instant where the MD classifies two type of people. One people are basically complainers. The other people are problem solvers. He says the people who have been complaining, they are very good workers. So they are very loyal to the company and they are good workers. But the MD says that these people they come to my office, if I have 100% energy, by the time they go out, my energy is only 10%. The way the problem solvers come, they may be average or they could be very loyal on that. But when they come in, they always tell the issue and they say, this is an option which we can try. So he says, I'm charged up because they are giving me options so I can improvise on it and take it onto a production level on it. So that's the main thing. Take the ownership of the issue as such.
You're very right. See, I think the biggest concern that everybody has is I am going to be held accountable, right? When you take that equation out of the picture, the person is able to think much more clearer, right? I mean,
Yes.
see, eventually he owns it, whether he likes it or not. He is the owner of the problem. But the concern is more about how am I going to go back and answer for my responsibility of this problem that I've created myself. So what I've done in most cases just to tell them is that don't worry, I will take care of it. Just fix the problem. And there have been situations where the problems have been pretty severe. Okay, it could be some in certain cases it was that we are going to lose a customer, right? But the
Hmm.
point was rather than trying to at that time nitpick and find out what all the issues are, I've gone on to the bottom of the problem, as you said, identify the root cause of the problem, and then have a solution for this particular instance to immediately fix the problem. But go back and remember that you have to come back to this and fix the root cause later. So yes, ownership is something that you need to be able to give to the right person who can handle it, not necessarily the person who is in the problem at that moment of time. But then eventually you have to hold them accountable, right? So that's
That
how
is
you
right.
make them accountable at the same time empower them too.
Yeah, that's right. Grenville. What happens is the main thing is like if you don't take the ownership of the issue, the fear factor steps in. So
Correct.
when the fear factor steps in, then you start giving lame excuses, and it will be a simple excuse. Then you keep on increasing the excuses to make it as a reality, and ultimately, when you are into the problem, you would have completely deviated from the issue, and you have been trying to solve something else, which is not the issue of it.
True. True. There's one more point to this, Praveen, which also I have used many times as a very effective tool, is to bring in collective minds. Okay, sometimes you're so
Yes.
much close to the problem, you are not able to see the solution. Okay, even though you have the solution with yourself. So bringing in collective minds who are not really directly involved has really helped. Now, in certain times, they don't contribute anything. It's more moral support than anything else. But they just come and say, "What have you seen this? Have you seen this?" It triggers your mind to start looking at avenues. Maybe you're not in a frame of mind to even think. So that also has been very effective as far as I've used to make sure that people are able to see or what is the problem to be solved. So that also takes a bit of effort to get the guy to think in that way so that he can find a solution and say, okay, now I am able to think. And I've had situations where a totally unrelated person to the process comes in, right? And identifies the point that you could not put your finger on, even though you're the expert, right? You say, oh, how could I have missed a thing like this? As I said, when you're upset, your mind is really not thinking straight. So it needs somebody who comes and sees the obvious, which is most probably the solution is right in front of you in most cases, right? There are complex problems, but these are very, very normal problems we're talking about. So, as you said, yes, it definitely makes a lot of sense to give the person the frame of mind to think. And one effective way of doing that is bringing collective brains in, saying, okay, get them all in to come and help. That to me has been a very
When you said collective brain, I just remembered about an instant. I forgot the player's name. He's a top golfer, and for around 6 months he lost his form. So then he went back to his coach, and his coach was monitoring him. So there was a comment from a lot of people: "This guy is a world-class golfer, and what does it coach does? Because coach is never performed in a very high standards on it. What does a coach do?" So when there was I remember his first name was Nick. I forgot the second name of it. So over the time, when there was a press interview and when they asked him the question, why you need a coach now? You are a top golfer. So he just gave an instant that my coach may not be a great player, but he's just standing behind me and watching my mistakes. So he's the one who's not in my place. He's out of the place person, and his only concentration is to find where I'm making my mistakes. So it becomes an easy way to solve my issues of it. Because as a person, I don't have time to look at my mistakes. So that was something wonderful which I remembered about how to when you said collective mind. So when you present it to a totally a new person, then he sees in a totally a different perspective of it, which you were never in that place.
You see, coaches like us, Praveen, that's our only job, right? I mean, our main job is to go and find out what you miss. That is the biggest thing because you are the expert. You are the person in that business who's done it for years. So I'm never going to be as good as you. If not, I'll be in that business to start with, right? But what I can do is to find out what you're missing as an overall principle of what you do as business. So that's what most of the coaches and consultants do. They come and evaluate your process for what are the gaps, not for what is running properly. They of course will note on what is running properly, but their benchmark is to see is what is not running right and bring that to
Yes.
your focus so you can act on them. As I said, everything that is not being done is not bad. It's an opportunity, right? So while you are very strong at something which is your strength, these opportunities could be pulling you back. So if you
Yes.
don't fix them, they would eventually become so big that they will mask the strengths that you have. So that is the way of making sure that you play to your strengths while you are trying to make your opportunity into a strength. You cannot convert all opportunities into a strength. That is a fact, right? You can maybe
Yes.
manage them to the most extent and stop them being a hindrance to your strength. So the
Yes.
same thing applies to a problem too, right? If you're in the middle of a problem, some of the things can't be fixed, right? If you have a machine broken down, you can't go on trying to repeat the machine and say, I'll repair it. Eventually, you may need to buy a new machine, and that's the answer, right? You can try your best to go back and try to fix that right now and say, okay, I'm going to go so far and then make a call saying, move on. Invest that money, it's a cost, it's a loss, fix the problem, and then go back and still fix that machine and find out what went wrong, right? That's the biggest part of the problem is a temporary solution and a long-term solution. You should not be hung up on both. What is to I've seen some people like they're like killer analysts, okay? They keep analyzing and analyzing and analyzing and the problem never gets solved. That is the worst thing you can do in a problem solving situation, right? The first thing
That
is
is
to
true.
solve the problem for the short term and move on. Let the process continue and you still go back and revisit it to the root cause and say, what was the root cause of the problem? Now, if it is a very small thing, I would not say keep it and come back and analyze it. It's a stupid thing to do. If you can easily identify it, fix it, and it's a one time effort and move on. But if it is a major issue, which you're not able to nail at that time, I think the biggest thing is to solve the temporary problem, do a patchwork, move on, and then come back and fix it permanently, right?
Yes, Grenville, what you said is right. I was also thinking on the same lines. So we have two issues. One is which we are in control and things which we are not in control of. So when things are not in control, it is better to have a stopgap arrangement, go and come back and think at a clear time whether it is worthwhile to go proceed forward or you need to walk away from the problem. So that is something which is very difficult when you are into a problem actually, and you need what to say a third person to help you out, like a coach or somebody to help you out, or a very good friend to help you out to get watch you from outside. Totally a different perspective as such.
Yeah, it's actually, when we were talking about miscommunication, I remember an incident that happened to me once. I was trying to communicate a matter to my colleague, okay, a genuine concern of what I saw as a problem in his process, right? First time, second time, third time, and the volume of our conversation is going higher because both of us are getting upset. My frustration is that I'm trying to help this guy. Okay, he's not ready to listen. And his frustration is that this guy is trying to teach me what to do. I'm the expert. Okay, so both are going and both are saying the same thing but in different ways and going around and around till I finally said, let's take a break. I'm stepping back. Let's revisit this in 5 minutes. Okay, I walked out, drank a cup of water to cool myself down, not to cool him down. It was more that let me get my brain in a stable situation so there can be one stable brain in the conversation so we address it properly. We fixed the issue in 2 minutes. When I went back, he had cooled down and he is apologizing and I'm apologizing and said we wasted 10-15 minutes for what was just a simple conversation of why don't you look into this. That's all it was, and we amicably solved the problem. And that is the biggest challenge, right? Is that you are going to have one of the people involved in the problem always not engaged. So it's very sensitive that whoever in the team is part of this discussion or part of the problem disengages themselves to make sure that they're in a frame of mind to help that person think straight. I think that is the biggest success in problem solving if you really want to be efficient at managing it as a normal practice in your day-to-day life. And problems are going to come. I think in business or at life, if anybody says it's a smooth ride, they're surely lying. There is never such
Yeah,
thing as a smooth ride. So we always
yeah.
tend to have problems which we should anticipate, right?
Yeah, Grenville, like what you said now, to rephrase it further, when you took a break, your mind went into options of taking the ownership of it. I need to solve this. How to solve it? Either I have to accept, because the first time when you get into a problem, it becomes a defensive. You start defending your questions with too many things to say that you are not wrong. But when you take a break, you tend to cool down time, and then you start taking ownership of the problem. And then you will be able to discuss it more freely than what was in the past. At least you will be able to share the facts and figures so that you can come to a compromise or two things on that.
You're right, Praveen. Again, I said we can. This topic is such an engaging topic. I think we can go on, but I think we've crossed the 30-minute mark. So let's park this for this time. Maybe we'll revisit another session on problem solving sometime later. Right? I mean, it was very engaging for me, Praveen. I hope you enjoyed this conversation too. I had a lot of fun, and again, a lot of things that came back to me about the principles that I've adopted consciously and subconsciously too. And we had this conversation, which would help me at least, even going forward, how to handle problems both at work as well as in my personal life. So I hope it was the same for you.
Yeah, it was same for me, Grenville. I was able to visualize some of the issues which I went through, and I was able to say, now at least sit back and laugh at it. Like, okay, I could have done this way, I could have done that way. So it's basically what I said is that I meant it. Like when you take ownership of the issue, then almost 80% of issue is resolved. Balance 20% is to find a solution on it.
True.
It was a nice, engaging session, Grenville. Thanks a lot. We'll
Great,
keep in
Praveen.
touch on this topic again.
It was as usual fun with you. So till next week, we'll catch up with another topic. So whoever was on live, thank you for coming on live and participating with us. Do leave your comments and your questions in the comments box. We'll get back to you. And to whoever's going to see the recording, thank you for seeing our recording as well. Wishing all of you another again a happy new year. And I hope this year turns out to be much better than 2020 was for us. And let us move forward where we are from today to something better. Till next week, we'll be back with another topic as engaging, if not better, on the same sort of topic of how to fix things at work and in our personal life. This is Grenville, business planning coach, signing off. See you and have a good week.
Thank you, friends. Thanks a lot. Catch us on Coach Grenville on both FB as well as YouTube. It was nice engaging with you every Sunday. I really love this session. Happy New Year, guys. Thanks.